So we're going to do a video on what to look for when you're house hunting. Okay. A lot of times you're going to be buying an old home or a new home. There's probably more older homes than new homes. So this video is designed to tell you what to look for when you're going with your realtor. Walk around the house, when you see certain things and what to look for. And every house will be different, but this is an example of a few things. If you watch this video, you're going to learn a lot, and it will definitely help you while house hunting, so you don't waste time. The last thing you want to do is buy a house and go through all the process of purchasing the home and getting the appraisal and inspection, only to find out that it's not going to work out too good. And you need to stop that from happening and pick the right one so you don't waste your time and money. Okay? So, once again, hey, please subscribe, share and watch. And I have a lot of videos. Okay? So you walk around the house, first thing you see is a bunch of trees, They're too close to the house. You're like, I better look at the foundation, because when trees are that close, they have roots. Roots get into the storm lines, into the drain tile, and before you know it, you have sluggish conditions and leaks. And if the people paint the basement, they might be hiding something from you. So always look at the trees around the house. If they're too close, you really got to go to the basement and check it out. Also, these trees are going to cause damage. The gutters can overflow. Again, in this corner of the basement, there was some moisture, okay? And so just remember these things. Look at the structured chimneys. Like this one isn't too bad. Obviously, a brick fell down. But some chimneys are worse. And, to fix a chimney, they need a 40-foot ladder. And so, doing a tuck point chimney is not $100. It's usually $500. So if you see mortar joints, that's $500 right off the bat that you want to take care of. You're going to an old house, and, you need to pay attention to the drain tile base cracks. Here, it's plastic, right? So, they did a repair. So now you're like, all right, maybe they waterproofed it. I don't know. Usually it's clay. If it's clay, then you're like, oh, man, it's old. It's 90 years old. My basement probably leaks. I got to waterproof it, 10, 20 grand. So always look at the base cracks and see if they're new, if they've been repaired, and how old they are. Another big thing for me would be today with lead paint. I would say homes pre-1978, but most of the time, pre-1952 is where they used a ton of lead. And if you're going to rent the house, to children under 6, or you've got women with childbearing age, and you've got these windows with friction and lead paint, you might be thinking, maybe I should look for houses that don't have old wood windows and old wood siding. Maybe I'm looking for a house that is vinyl siding, and maybe it's got vinyl windows. I mean, that's a big plus. People don't think about it, but if you're worried about lead, this house is going to have a lead problem, because every time you open a window, you're going to create friction, and there's going to be lead dust and lead chips, and it's going to get in the home. Now, if you're looking at brick homes, some of the things with bricks, you might have some cracks, and maybe there's no weep holes. I mean, maybe you need some mortar joints, but look at the lintels. Those are the steel plates above the windows. When those are bad, you're talking $600 to $1,000 to fix each one. So, because they rust and they lift it up and crack it. So this house actually had pretty good lintels, but you want to look at those, okay? And then just periodically look at the drainage. Now, this tells me that it disconnected. Well, why did it disconnect? Well, recently they dug it up and they did some waterproofing, right? And they didn't compact it, so it's settled and pulled apart. I'm not sure it's a big deal, but this may be causing moisture and mold in the basement. Another real big thing is trees. Look at the tree, in the front of the property, not so much in the back. How big is this tree? Is it this big or really big? If it's really big, it's really old, right? And you've got old drain tile. That's the old sewers. They could be plugged up by tree roots. Also, you want to look, to see if in the basement, if there's trees out front, say, is there any new cleanouts? If there's cleanouts, then there's snake in the drains. You're going to move in and you're going to have a flood. So you need to do that. And also look at the disclosures. So trees out front, got it. You need to open your eyes up and look in the basement, look at the cleanouts, and I'll show you something here in a minute. And then also read the disclosures and ask them, hey, have you ever had any tree root issues? Concrete driveways, as long as they're not falling apart and not tripping all over them, they last. Even though this one, you can see how bad the surface is, but it's still going to last a long time. Cracks, hey, they forgot to put control joints in. It's an old driveway. But, concrete can last 50 years, 100 years, So just because it's cracked and spalled, it doesn't mean you're going to have to replace it. But when you start tripping on it, then you got to make repairs. Now, this is the issue. Okay, this is, you look at this and like, well, why is that concrete new in a house that's 90 years old and there's a hole there and they patched it and it's not level? So now you got to say, oh, I got to look at this. And you know what? I want to show you a few other slides. Some of these pictures aren't bright, but what I'm showing you here is that the porch that we just looked at is deflected, bowed, and not level. It's settled, and there's a carpet covering it. So you're not going to move all this furniture and look underneath the carpet, but you know that this is not a normal thing. This is an anomaly. The floor isn't level on the porch. The porch has got holes in it. So you need to get underneath the porch and look underneath and see what's going on. Or at least ask the owners, hey, what's going on with this porch? It's not level. It's cracked. Why are you covering it with, so you always want to open your eyes up and look at things. Porch, this could be an expensive repair. Same porch, you shouldn't have these cracks unless there was differential settlement movement, or some type of failure. And so these cracks existed on both sides. So at this point, you're like, all right, okay, do we go further with this home? Let's make a list of things and ask the homeowner, Now, the roof is always a big one. Now, this, most people don't know about roofs, but this roof, this is a close-up from the ground, with the telephoto. It looks okay, but it's not. This is an old roof, and the company that used to make this roof, has been, they switched this product over 20 years ago. So this roof is already 25 years old, and it was a 25-year roof, and it had multiple layers. So you look at the roof and say, what does that roof look like? Now, this one might have been a little bit difficult, but other roofs, you could tell. You don't have to be a roofer to see if the thing doesn't look good, and then see how many layers. If you got multiple layers and the roof is bad and it's got a big pitch, man, you got $15,000, okay, coming up. So look at that roof and look at the condition of it. And if you can't see it from the ground, then look through a window, and I'll show you a couple pictures. This just tells you, hey, this house was really old. It had coal chutes, right? So this is like 1920s house, right? And so another thing is you could replace the coal chutes. If you don't want them, you could, put something like glass block windows. Now here's a back set of steps. And what happened here? It's settled, and you're like, if I got to fix this, I might have to take these steps out. How are you going to fix this? So this is not a $50 problem. So, underpinning back steps that are made of masonry, block, and sandstone, you could spend $1,500 doing this. So take a look at it. Always look to see how many layers of roof. I mean, if you got a new roof and there's 2 layers, well, you probably got 20 years, okay? Worry about it in 20 years. But if you got 2 or 3 layers and that roof doesn't look that good, it's gonna cost you a lot of money to do a tear off, and a lot of times you got to do sheeting repairs, and so you're talking $15,000 minimum on some of these roofs. And then take a look at the air conditioners. Oh, we have central air. You know what? You don't have to be a home inspector to see those air conditioners are really old. They're 30 years old. And you know what? Air conditioners last 15 years, 20 years. So these things might work, but they're sure not going to work for a long time. Plus, they're not even level, so you have to fix the grading, okay? So you got 2 air conditioners, right off the bat, 30 years old. And you know what? You could look at this serial number. And if you look at it, a lot of times the dates on there on the bottom will have an ANSI number in 1967 or 97, whatever, and then also the serial number. And you can call Ream, and give them the serial number. Maybe they'll tell you how old it is. Take a look at the wiring to the garage. It should be 10 feet off the ground. You know what? This one here is only 8 feet off the ground, and you can see this exposed wire here, right? So, to dig a hole to the garage is going to be $500, $1,000. So you should be adding up all these $500. I mean, this is not going to work too long. You're going to have to either get rid of the electrical in the garage, or you're going to have to dig. Then look at the garage itself, and you're like, wow, this is this garage, and this is this guy's garage, and oh man, we need gutters. And then when you don't have gutters on the back, then you got to look at the back wall. In this particular garage, there's some deterioration, right? So you might have to do some repairs. And here's that peeling paint, pre-1978. So now you got an old garage and you see a bunch of ants. That's a carpenter ant. Okay. Well, you know what? That thing's living underneath the roof somewhere where it's leaking. These things like moisture. So when you see carpenter ants, on a garage, just state it for a minute and see if you see a couple, If you see them in the house or dead ants, hey, they have a moisture problem. You need to figure out where it's at. And that garage didn't have a gutter, right? So, naturally there's always problems when you have gutters, and this back wall wasn't level. It was still sound, but you may have to put some bracing on it. Garage floors generally aren't a big deal, but some cities make you fix them. This garage floor was pretty old, didn't have any construction joints, and maybe you got to take it out one day. Check out the city and see if they do pre-sale inspections. A lot of these cities you make you replace the garage floor, and that's a couple $2,500 there, right? We go back to the driveway, like, well, there is a tripping hazard here, and you look at it like, there's a couple of patches. You could probably live with those and make partial repairs. Now, when you go in the basement, you're not going to have a gas detector like I have, right? But you can, 9 out of 10 times, right when you walk in that basement, you take that little sniff, man, it smells like gas. Guess what? There's a gas leak. 9 out of 10 times when there's a gas leak, you could actually smell it. You don't necessarily need an expensive tool like I use, to look for them. And usually a gas leak you'll smell. And then now you see that they waterproofed it. You're like, oh, okay, so, this was a system, an interior waterproofing system with some exterior drainage that they did for the downspouts. So at this point, you're like, oh, all right, well, it's not going to leak, right? But you want to know who put the system in, and is there a warranty? And a lot of these people will require a yearly fee to keep up the warranty, right? So at this point, it might be $300, a year to keep this warranty going. Plus, they hid the walls. You don't know if the walls are cracked or bowed, right? So go up to the walls and kind of look sideways. Look sideways and see if are they level? Are they bowed? Are they swaled? Just take a quick look at them, especially when they're waterproof, because you can't see the walls. The water heaters, not a big deal, but water heaters have gotten expensive. They're $800 to $1,200 now. So this house had 2 water heaters, and if you look at the serial number, 14 years and one was 12. 14 years is about the max on a water heater. Water heaters don't last as long as you think they do. Usually the lifespan of a water heater is 15. So, if you got 1 or 2 water heaters, you've got $2,000 there, especially if they're 15, 14 years old. And also you want to look at, this picture doesn't have it, but look to see if this is all rusted here. If this is all rusted, then you've got downdrafting. That's a whole other set of problems, carbon dioxide, things like that. So look at them, look for the rust, make sure, that like a lot of inspectors will say, oh, you're missing the overflow valve. That's nothing, man. It's like a $3 pipe, okay? Oh, you're missing a shutoff. These are little things. I go for the big things, okay? The big things that cost money. And, I usually do big things by $500. Or if you want to do them by $1,000, then do them by $1,000. Now, I look at the furnaces, and, when you look at a furnace, you don't have to be a home inspector to say these are old, okay? Maybe you can't say they're 30 years old, but they're old. And old furnaces generally don't last that long, right? So you're like, okay, I got 2 old furnaces. Well, in this case, there's 2 30-year-old furnaces. And not only that, but I did a combustion test on them, and they both had carbon monoxide issues. So 30 years old, Another thing you want to look at, these older homes, a lot of times they don't connect the cold air returns. And so that means that this thing is sucking air out of the basement. So, that's not optimal. Back in the old days when they had coal burning, gravity units, they weren't connected. But nowadays, you should connect your cold air returns. So you're like, to connect the cold air returns, $1,200. See how it's not connected, okay? And that needs to be connected. You want to have the air coming from the especially if you got 2 units. You want to have the air you don't want to intermingle the air between the 2 units, because if somebody doesn't pay their gas bill, they turn on their fan, then they could steal your hot air in the basement. So you want to make sure they're connected. Now, this is a lot of times people, asbestos tape. You know what? It's not friable. I'm not too worried about that. I'm more worried about asbestos in attics, like vermiculite, or, that shiny pumice-looking stuff in the attic, or hydronic piping, So here you look at the furnaces, like, okay, we know they're old. Well, man, $3,000 a piece. And you got the air conditioner, so you got $5,000, $4,000 each, right? $8,000 you got to be thinking about here. And so, they're not going to put that on their disclosure, old furnaces. They're not going to tell you that. And you may like the kitchen and the paint job and the siding, but then you miss the big stuff. And then you move in, it's surprise, the air conditioners start breaking, right? The furnaces have carbon monoxide issues. So always look at the ages, and really important. And then this one, see how this one's connected? Now this one, they did connect the cold air return, okay? And then they also have a vent here. So this is the guy, he turns on the vent and heats the basement. For this guy, he's on the first floor, he's on the second floor. And he's on the first floor, his cold air returns aren't connected. So he's intermingling this air. And if you want to steal air from this guy, you open that up. So always look, you could probably, the big thing here is you don't want them intermingling once you own the house. But the big thing here is this is not connected. See how this is connected and this isn't. So, look at the cold air returns of these old homes. They're also known as the Cleveland drop. Another thing is, when the furnace kicks on, it's going to suck all this cobwebs and just nastiness in the basement, and the moisture, and the humidity, and the mold spores, and the insect fragments. So another reason why you want to connect it. Now here's something nobody ever looks at until there's a big problem. So here you have a two-family. And why is there two hots and one cold? Okay, the cold we don't pay for, but the hots we do, right? So this guy's supposed to turn this off, and this guy leaves it on. So when he uses hot water for washing clothes, he pays for it. Then he's supposed to turn this off, and the guy upstairs, when he washes clothes, he turns his on. Right now they're both on, right? So guess what they're doing? They're mixing the hot waters in the house. So what do you want to do if you want to cheat? Go to your water heater and turn it to vacation. And guess what? You're going to save a ton of gas. So you can't have intermingling with gas, water, or heat. So these have to be separated. So you need a plumber. It's going to cost you $500. Now this is something you can't do, but you need to do it. Now you saw that the heating's do a lot of heater furnaces in the basement. You got water heaters, and you could have negative pressure. So put your hand here, turn on the water heater. And there's a valve on the bottom where you could turn it up to high. And once it kicks on, put your hand, I shouldn't tell you put your hand there, but you can. And if you feel it getting hot, this thing is spilling. Big problem. That means the chimney's blocked. That means you got negative pressure. That means there's a bird's nest. Who knows, okay? I happen to use expensive gauges. I drill a hole and I patch it up. And see here, that's 2 water-inch columns. So this one's safe, okay? And then you check for, it's going to be tough to do carbon monoxide. So they were safe, but, see, I drilled my hole here, and I'll patch that up. You're not going to do all that. You're going to look at the age. You're going to put your hand there. You're just house hunting at this point. You're not doing a whole home inspection and just get an idea what you want to buy. You may walk out of this house and say, man, I got up to $30,000. Oh, we got to move on to another one. Or you may walk out of this house and say, hey, it's like $800 what I see. Well, let's wait till the inspector comes, And so you could do a lot of this ahead of time, save yourself money and time. Don't fly. Your realtor wants to fly through these homes. Don't fly through them. If you like a house, you're better off looking at 2 houses and really looking at them than flying through 10 and picking the one with the nicest kitchen and granite countertops. You don't look at the kitchen granite countertops. Don't look at the remodeled bathrooms or the carpet. Look at the bones. You need to look at the bones. And so this one was good too. Now the furnace is a whole another ball game. And this is what you can't do. And this furnace that was putting out like 8,000 or I don't know, maybe 5,000 parts per million. It's a very dangerous system. That means incomplete combustion. You can't figure that out unless you smell it. Now, if you smell aldehydes, like that weird combustion, that's a problem. If you smell aldehydes and you got CO, you really can't smell the CO. You need to test it. So if you got an old furnace, then you might want to say, okay, we're going to buy this house, but I want both furnaces replaced. Or you can say, hey, I want both furnaces tested and certified by a combustion certified analyst, right? This way they're safe when you walk in. A lot of home inspectors don't do combustion analysis. They don't. And, back in these furnaces here, the 30-year-old furnaces, I'm going to tell you 1 out of 20 are deadly and dangerous and in people's homes right now. These are this particular model that's 30 years old. So there's my thumbs down. And then you're upstairs in the attic and you look at the roof from a window because you could see maybe another porch roof. And you could see this roof is done, man. It's cracking up. It's brittle. And so big bucks. And then you look at the attic. Also look at the timbers. Pictures, I don't bring out lights with me, but you want to make sure that they're missing collar ties. That's an easy thing. You could probably put those in for like $300. Now The bathroom vents, nobody ever looks at these. And this a lot of times causes mold in the attic and moisture and poor indoor air quality. The vents have to be connected, man. The bathroom vents can't be vented in the attic, because when they do that, then in the winter you got icicles, and then the gutters fall down, and then when ice melts, it leaks in your house. So look at the heat loss to the attic. Make sure that the bathroom vents are connected to the roof. And look, you go in the attic and look for those bathroom vents. Make sure they go through the roof. If you're outside, you could see if they're coming out through the roof. Okay. And you can see the roof is all wavy. Then you could check the doors. I mean, these are little things now. When the doors don't lock and close, those are simple adjustments. Windows that are tight, simple adjustments. Now, what about you go in a house and you got pets? Even though the house is clean, it's not clean. I mean, 2 kid litters means 2 cats. Well, you got dogs, right? Dog food. You're going to have to clean all the ductwork. You're going to try to rent this house out, or you're going to move in. People today, are sensitized to stuff. And, man, people allergic to dogs and cats, it's going to be a huge problem. So now you got to think about, wow, they got dogs and cats. Man, I got to wash all my carpets. I got to clean all my duct. I mean, you're talking $600 per unit for ducts at least. And then cleaning carpets could be $3 more. So you got $1,000 right there just because they had a cat. And then if there's dogs, look for the damage. A lot of times you don't see it because they hide it with furniture. But look for the damage from the scratching and biting of the trim. Gutters. See the gutters are overflowing. Well, that's easy. You can clean gutters for $100, right? People that smoke. Another thing. People smoking in the house. Well, you have to paint on the walls because that smoke stain is going to leave soot stains, and you can't paint over those. If you do, and you have high humidity, they're going to bleed through. So you got to repaint the house. Any house that's got smokers. Okay, the old windows. You got ropes. Okay, now you think you got a fireplace. You better look above it, because sometimes it's not a real fireplace. It's a gas unit. Oh, this one's a real fireplace because it has a damper. Make sure it's got a big damper, this kind of damper. But if you see a little small hole, like a little teeny hole, you can't use those. You won't be burning any wood in there, and they may tell you it's a fireplace, but it's not. Okay. And then, these are little things like these stair treads. You could fix this just one piece if you want, right? And these old homes, they really don't have cold air returns, so you can deal with that. Maybe you just cut the doors. You won't have that much balance. But now, if there's a lot of light bulbs that are out, and maybe you get a little small electrical tester, like $5, just check it out. Because a lot of times they're improperly wired. Just test a few. Light bulbs, if there's a lot that are out, there may be an electrical problem, okay? Another thing is these old tiles, were old, and they need to be caulked and grouted, and a lot of times there was water behind them. And, after 70 years, you might have to redo the bathrooms, and redoing, the bathrooms with these old tiles could be expensive, plus the tubs are old. And these fixtures, too, look at these fixtures. They're corroding, they're dripping, they're leaking, and a lot of times, it costs you $300-400 just to fix the leaks. And then, in bathrooms and kitchens, you should have GFI. So if you don't see those are the little reset test buttons. This is not a GFI. Anytime you're within 5 feet of a water source, you want to be GFI protected. And so a house like this, you're talking, you got to put a GFI in the garage, one in the kitchen, one in the bathroom, one in the laundry. Let's say 5, okay, $550. That's $300, okay. So keep in mind, and if you got just 2 wire outlets, knob and tube, well, you better check with your insurance company, because a lot of times the knob and tube, isn't covered. So look at the fixtures, see if they're dripping. Like, look at this sink; it's kind of rusting. I mean, how much longer is this going to last? You got the old tiles, and then this thing doesn't even work, the stopper. And so, remodeling a kitchen, $3,500 minimum, okay. And they added a fan. That's a good thing. But this was the fan that was dumping into the attic. And then you look at the carpets, and some people want to say it's carpet damage, but it's the cat. They locked the cat in the room, so you got to replace the carpets. And then if the stoves and appliances come, just take a quick look. You don't have to test them. Like, do you need to test this stove? I don't think so. I mean, it's missing buttons. Thing looks like it's like a dinosaur, So new stove, electric stove, what? $500-600 for a cheap one, right? Then now let's go to the basement, and you look at the sewer cap. Look at this. See this little white stuff here? Well, guess what? The sewer's back up. Yeah, that tree's a problem. And this is where they snake it. You can see that this wasn't just one time. You can see like different history here. And so take it, and sometimes you don't see this. You'll see like a plastic pipe with a brand new clean out. Okay, and that's a dead giveaway. Check the windows. I think you're going to be replacing windows, especially if you're going to rent to children. Or you're going to have women in childbearing age. Closet doors, walls. I mean, I don't have a problem with fuses. Even though we know that this fuse is like 40, 50 years old. This is like 50 years old. But you want to keep your fuses out to 15 amps, okay? And if there's any green ones, that's a problem. That means that there's an electrical issue. A lot of times you look at a house that's green and green. That means they keep blowing these, right? So they put the big fuse in there. That means you got to rewire, man. You got to add more outlets and things. So always look at that. These fuses. I mean, some people want to replace these. Here's your two-prong outlet. Okay, that means knob and tube. And you see the knob and tube, and then call your insurance company, and maybe your insurance company won't cover your house with knob and tube. Now, a lot of them do. There's a few that don't. And then, of course, any ceiling repair, especially in bathrooms. Like, find out from the disclosure, like here, this was a toilet leak. But then I check the toilet below. Put your feet around it, see if it's loose. Sometimes loose toilets have rotted floors, like this one's loose. Okay, that one drips. Then you check the air conditioners, and if you don't have a gauge like I do, then just put your hand there. Sometimes you could tell the difference, And then in the basement, just look at they didn't have joist hangers, Sometimes when floors aren't level, it's because there's no joist hangers. So that's an easy fix. And then you got copper. Sometimes you got galvanized, right? That's a problem. You got galvanized plumbing, you got to replace it. So they already replaced this plumbing. Now this valve's getting kind of old, and this one's corroded, and maybe that needs washers. All right, now we're going to the front porch. We found an access, and look at this whole front porch. The whole structure is deteriorated. So this whole front porch has a structure below it that is deteriorated. Now they probably poured concrete above it, but you have no clue how that concrete has been fastened with rebar, and it's deflected, it's cracked, and it's covered by a rug. So this is huge. So at this point, you're like, all right, I haven't bought this house yet. Now, if I want to buy this house, then they got to give me an engineering report or some kind of contractor's report saying that there's nothing going on with this porch. Because if you got to rebuild a porch like this, you're talking $5,000, $8,000. So this is the big one here. So this house, the big ones were the big $10,000 plus roof, the $5,000 porch, the over $5,000 for water heaters and furnaces and air conditioners. And so, you're walking out of here, thinking, man, I need 20, 30 grand, and I haven't remodeled anything yet, and I still got old windows. So always look at this stuff. Like here's a galvanized pipe, but it's the only one in the whole building. You're not going to jump up and down because of this, right? You turn this water off, you replace this pipe, you're done. So, don't worry about the little $100 repairs. You got to go for the big ones. Even here, there's no joist hangers and the floors weren't level. You know what? Not a big deal. And everyone's got mice. Don't get crazy because you see mouse traps or mouse poop. You know what? It's okay. Sweep it up, clean it up, and go outside and fill in the holes and make sure they don't get back in. I've had people not buy houses because of mouse traps. Really, you got a porch that's got issues. You got water heaters that are old, furnaces with carbon dioxide. You got old air conditioner. And now we didn't get into the insulation, but poor insulation, not good insulation in the attic. And you got old windows. And that's a lot of money. These boxes are newer and they're okay, but you are not supposed to open these up, so don't, okay? But your inspector will do it. Like this is like a double tap. Oh, it's a double tap. You know what? They can fix that, okay? So, anyways, these are just some things that you could look for in an older house while house shopping. Watch this video. If anything, you'll learn. And please subscribe. And I have a lot more videos. And that's my phone. So, hey, thanks for coming on. And watch more videos.